Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Sunday, July 14th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today. Why do we have 3 cards coming out? It's going to be one of those nights, folks. We got 3 cards coming out already. Let's just check them out. Oh my goodness, and what 3 cards we have here. We've got here our 10 of Swords in its upright, in combination with the Lover's card in its upright, in combination with our Devil card in its reversal. It's just going to be one of those nights, folks. It's just going to be one of those nights. It's fine. What do we really see that's happening right now? Again, a lot of this path work in terms of perseverance. I got to stress, I think a lot of the reason we're seeing energy like this right now is the double Capricorn full moon that we have approaching. We've already had one of them. We're about to have the second one. For masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is a little bit of that struggle energy that I mentioned at the beginning when I was giving the recap on what we've been seeing over the last few days. A lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this ability to recognize and identify what has effectively or energetically worked for you doesn't mean that what has energetically worked for you has necessarily works for everyone else around you, right? But we see at the same time that for a lot of the energy right now, deep within that frequency, helping energy around the divine union frequency navigate their own hurdles, their own experiences, it's requiring a lot of energetic delicacy, as it were, because that ability of, again, re-experiencing something, but almost re-experiencing something from outside of the self. This is why we see that so much of that energy right now is working so hard not to be overly prescriptive, as it were, as it relates to what effectively energetically works for the self or for you and a counterpart versus what might necessarily work for another. Because that ability of identifying that is path work that each individual needs to carve, and potentially even each energetic union must carve in their own way, that is something that requires a level or degree of delicacy. It requires a level or degree of nuance. It's that unfathomable territory that you experience and inhabit with a counterpart. That is why we see that sometimes something can energetically feel very positive in a connection with one, but doesn't necessarily feel like the same were it happening towards another. A lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union, is even articulating upon their own past experiences to try to kind of lay that pathwork of assistance towards those around them. Almost, again, articulating and identifying their own energetic journey in such a way that in the ability to describe it, helps someone understand that ability of finding what feels right. It doesn't mean you can just do something or stick a patch on it and say that everything is going to be even or positive going forward. It is fragile, it is subtle, it is nuanced work, which is why we see, even if there's that moment of frustration that is potentially being amplified or recognized with energy deep within the divine union frequency, in like looking towards someone and someone being like, I'm doing what you tell me and this not working, or this is not, like that ability of doing so is almost that moment of someone saying, like, the ability of seeing something that you're trying to do but feeling like something is being confounded on the way. A lot of that articulation may have to do with, again, bringing back up issues from the past, rediscovering, re-exploring, redefining to help not just the energy outside of the divine union understand their own nuances and their own particular journey, but it's also helping the energy within the divine union frequency between the counterparts really recognize and identify how far that they had to go within their own self to be able to establish and affirm their own energetic connection. And what's really beautiful and affirming about that work is it's never effectively done. That's almost the energy that's within the divine union that recognizes that that's something that feels like you're always in the act of doing it at every moment, as opposed to feeling like that energetic peace around circumstances or situations. So even here, navigating some of those frustrations, navigating some of those hurdles, it feels like that energy of affirmation. And that's a gift that a lot of the energy within the divine union is providing one another at this time, reaffirming their own energetic commitment towards what they feel is right, what they feel is working, what feels positive for them, and almost allowing that work to reaffirm their own energetic commitment and doing the best that they can for the energy around them. That is that modality that is almost one that feels like you're conquering any feelings of self-defeatism, any feelings of frustration, any feelings of like energetic lowness as it relates to the situations and circumstances around you, that is re-amplified and re-fortified in the connection with the counterpart. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of that nuance that I was talking about, because as we recognized and identified a lot of the energy in that modality right now, there are changes that are potentially occurring in relationality to the experience that you're having in partnership. We even saw and recognized that over the last few days, there may have been a lot of energy that was moving into deepening energetic commitments, maybe even putting words to what you are feeling with another. That ability to reestablish, that ability to articulate and redefine what is effectively energetically happening between you and a counterpart. You can see why this is delicate stuff, because this is that ability of wanting to come into a modality of change where it doesn't amplify that anything is necessarily wrong with the energetic connection. This is almost that sense of transformation that is required when things are going well, right? Because that ability of feeling something is going well, not wanting to create a feeling of stagnancy, almost feeling that modality of that sense of, I want to describe this as like that what's that word that I'm looking for? Come back to me, please. It's that feeling of inevitability, if you will. A lot of the energy right now that is coming into divine union is feeling that inevitable rush of something that is changing between them. That doesn't necessarily mean that what they have presently is wrong. It's actually quite the opposite. That inevitability is positive. It's like that rushing forward, if you will, but navigating that in a way that you don't feel like you upset the balance of what you currently have while you're still going through that action of change. That is that modality that, like, almost like the ship at sea. It's like the boat is getting rocked and you're trying to make changes to the boat even as it's rocking, but at the same time, you're reaffirming and you're reestablishing the energetic connection as you proceed forward from this point. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is a lot of energy that's just this is a lot of unpacking that's happening here. Because what we're effectively seeing is, for a lot of the energy that is moving into new energetic connections right now, a lot of this work is one that feels like we had defined this over the last few days. A lot of that energy over the last few days and weeks recognizes that they feel a lot of that change in terms of what they're moving towards in counterpart energy right now, simply by recognizing the changes that are occurring within the personal center, within the personal self. This is energy that may be recognizing or feeling, even if they're not necessarily in connection with a counterpart right now, but identifying and recognizing the changes that are happening within the self as it relates to the choices that you're making. Potentially, we even saw that a lot of this energy and separation moving away from something that started to feel like it was moving in the wrong direction, with that focus on the manifestation goal. A lot of the energy feels very much like they're either on the cusp of coming into divine union right now, or they can't necessarily energetically miss it. Why? Because if you keep your mind or your aspect focused on a goal, then that aspiration of the goal is what effectively conducts and informs your actions. So we see even now that a lot of the energy right now that is in separation, that ability of identifying that struggle point, it's not even the struggle point outside of the self, it is the struggle point within the self, because a lot of the energy right now is almost observing those changes in terms of how they're navigating situations. What happens in the moment that we feel a sense of doing something in a way that we haven't before? It can feel really triggering. It can feel really triggering because it can remind you of the experience wherein you may have made a different choice. So for a lot of the energy right now that is in separation, having that energetic feeling that tug of the past self versus like how you're moving right now, it can, like, that's that same boat rock feeling that we're effectively talking about here. Continuing to get clarification, second card, even though we've got 3 cards out today because it's going to be one of those nights. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, this is what we like to see. We've got here 6 of Cups energy. Why? Because a lot of the energy in separation right now, working very hard and not necessarily feeling immediately what that immediate urge is, like what that immediate motivation is, but really looking and assessing where, like, when those unhealthy coping mechanisms come up, when those bad modalities of thought, even when some of those unhealed karmic connections rise up, it's not just feeling the energetic tug of something. It's actually looking at what's tugging on you, right? Observing the threads, if you will, looking and identifying whether that thread that's pulling on you feels like it's coming from a positive place, or whether it feels like it's bringing you back into something that feels like it's less than positive or less than healthy. A lot of that energy right now, being mindful of the state, the quality of the energetic connection, as it were. A lot of this energy is feeling, even in separation right now, that the ability to make those choices and to utilize discernment is, again, almost effectively leading you towards energy that thinks with the same sense of mindfulness, thinks with the same sense of discernment. And that's even that moment that, again, it's that affirmation and the reestablishing of the strong energetic connections, the ones that feel like they are empowering, the ones that feel like they're motivating. This is helping even in the modality of healing what may have felt like the unhealed karmic connections in the past. Why? Because it doesn't require you to have to feel like you have to energetically cut a cord if it doesn't feel like it's necessarily positive. Rather, that affirmation of strengthening what feels like it's positive is how you can effectively move through those situations and circumstances when you feel that thing, when you move towards either, again, that thing that feels easy for you. That thing that feels like it's more readily accessible, but almost having that point of pausing and asking yourself not what feels like it's immediately accessible, but what feels like it's truly best for the self. Well, a lot of energy right now is coming into new energetic connections based and built upon that sense or space of healing. Continuing for masculine and feminine right now, coming into divine union. This is why we see that the energy right now navigating any sense of change, even if these are positive changes, because there's that recognition point and that amplification of energy that not just because they're trying to do something, even if it feels like it's positive, they're doing it with a sense of intentionality. They're doing it with a sense of mindfulness. They're doing it with a sense of real care, because this is the energy coming into divine union that says the change is nice, but the change is not necessary, because the change is not what is integral to the energetic connection, rather preserving and establishing what is already there, what is already established. Because for a lot of the energy right now, the ability to go through those changes and not allow those unhealthy coping mechanisms, those bad modalities of thought, the jumping to conclusions that I mentioned previously, that is the energy that, again, it almost feels like a risk because you're moving towards your joy. You're moving towards what you know, because that sense of trusting the counterpart, that is that energy of saying, like, we're doing this together. So even here we see that a lot of that work, it's nail biting, right? It's like it's anxiety inducing, but at the same time it is affirming, because this is the energy that says, I feel it too. I feel it too, and I'm doing it with you. Masculine and feminine energy right now. This is why the energy right now deep within the divine union is working on so many of the connections around them, as it were, because this is the energy that's trying to amplify the feeling of energetic connection that they have with the counterpart, but in such a way that they recognize and identify that that path work of building an energetic connection, it is different and it changes dependent on the connection, depending on the person. And that is why we see that so much of this energy right now deep within the divine union frequency is working really hard and not being energetically overly prescriptive. Like, I can almost see a lot of the energy within the divine union, like being like, I didn't say that. Don't jump to conclusions. You know, like, it's almost like that modality of the energy trying to articulate and almost come into that pathwork of correction and helping those around them, potentially even, again, unhealed karmic connections or situations and circumstances where others are navigating those with a sense of clarity, with a sense of discernment, but almost leaving room at the same time for someone to find their own path, to understand and recognize what works for them. So we see even now, like, a lot of the energy right now, if in divine union frequency deep within, is like towing that fine line and trying to do the best that one can by helping and assisting those around you even as you go, while doing the same work for yourself at the same time. And at the same time, like, more than anything, this is the energy that's just trying to do, like, it's like, I want to say, it's like you're trying to clean up the room that's getting messy in the process. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing everything that you can. And even as you navigate some of those feelings as overwhelm, what is the energy within divine union doing? They're reaffirming and they're looking towards one another and saying, I see your commitment towards what you are doing. I see your intentionality. I see your purpose. And that clarity of perspective, that ability to see the counterpart and almost like, again, feel like you have that center or you have that point of balance. This is the energy that's almost balancing one another on the way as they continue forward on that journey. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is Chariot in its reversal. It's not easy. This is a lot of that. I told you, it's a little bit of that energetic turbulence, if you will. There's a lot of that feeling right now, that rockiness, if you will. And a lot of this, I want to say, has to do with recognizing and identifying, and it's going to be different depending on where you are on the frequency cycles. For the energy right now within the divine union, one of the big hurdles has to do in the realm of setting those priorities. Right? Because one of the things that we see even now, that for a lot of the energy deep within divine union frequency, that ability of trying to lend assistance, that ability of trying to be everywhere all at once, that ability of trying to like lend that additional energetic support, not only towards one another, but towards all the energy around you. It feels like this is like, I want to describe this best as that energetic feeling of frustration that when you have a lot to do, it feels like you're always dropping the ball, right? It's like almost like when you're juggling and someone's just throwing more like balls into like the juggling. There's only so much that you can energetically carry. So we see even now that a lot of the energy deep within divine union, the gift that they're giving one another, is helping them recognize and identify that if they're feeling any of those feelings of frustration, when you're feeling that feeling of frustration, and you feel like your intentionality and purpose is correct, well, the obvious question that you need to ask oneself is, are you carrying too much right now? Is the direction, is what you're doing being impeded because of that overwhelm? Because this is the energy that is effectively, even now within the divine union, essentially supporting one another as they continue forward to a certain extent, even in, and I need to stress this, not just in the work that they're trying to do and facilitating path work with one another, but also in recognizing and identifying if anyone's feeling that frustration point. The difference between something that is, again, being externally navigated, something that is outside of the self, versus something that can be internally modified. So what is the gift that the energy right now is doing within the divine union? They're calibrating one another to help them recognize and identify what is something that can be changed within the self, what is something that one can personally change and adjust, versus something that is just the quality and condition of the difficulty of what one is trying to do. While for mask, and sometimes that's all you need, right? You just need that clarity of perspective. You need that extra set of eyes, if you will, that helps build that sense of clarity and purpose, especially in the realms right now, I want to say, of either misunderstandings with outside energy, or feelings of frustration in not being able to move something forward with the easement that one would aspire and desire. This is the energy that's basically supporting each other along the way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, coming into divine union, this is the affirmation of the energy that is potentially moving forward right now. Especially if these are connections that have some kind of new change as it relates to what they are building with one another in a relationship. We saw over the last few days some of this being new, like the deepening of an energetic commitment here. Maybe like the changing of what something is called between you and a counterpart, or the recalibration between where you may have intended or decided you were going to move towards with someone versus where you're both moving now. Because that ability of recognizing and identifying that where you first entered the divine union is you're no longer the same person. And that is not a change about you becoming someone that you're not. This is energy that is becoming more of themselves via the connection to the counterpart that is recalibrating or refocusing. Some of this energy may have desired, is now desiring things that they may have never even thought that they desired before, simply because they never were in that modality where they felt like they were in alignment with an energetic connection. When you go through experiences like that, even here we see that is that rockiness as you're navigating something that is changing. And some of the energy right now coming into divine union may not necessarily have experienced that to such a degree, because this is an energy that is trying to change what they're calling something for the sake of changing the energy between them and a counterpart. This is energy that is moving forward energetically and like making rocky territory in the sense of what they feel with the counterpart is so strong and so affirming. And this is again the energy that is almost amplifying and articulating every step of the way that the change is nice, but the connection is what is most valuable, that the connection is what is most important. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. Whew, like this is a lot. This is a lot for energy in separation right now. Because I can see even now that if this is energy that is recognizing and identifying the changes that are happening within the self in order to facilitate and focus on manifesting an energetic connection with someone that feels like it is positive, feels like it is restorative, this is a lot of energy that at the same moment that you do that, you may recognize and identify what was not working in the past, right? So there's a lot of this. I want to describe this as what could potentially be described as like inner child healing. And I'm going to say it again. Inner child healing isn't going back to who you were when you were 5. If you recognize and identify something that you're doing differently now that you weren't doing a week ago, well, guess what? That's your inner child that you're healing, because you can't hold that sense of regret towards something that you couldn't perceive clearly in the past. That is that moment that you almost have to look at the past version of self like an inner child. Like, look at this beautiful baby that I was a week ago, because that's the energy that didn't understand and recognize something that now does. So even now we see that a lot of that energetic unpacking right now, even in the space or place of, again, I want to say there are some new positive energetic connections that are forming right now. If you're feeling a little triggered in the modality of experiencing that, that's why. Because if you're doing something in a way that you haven't before, it can feel a little energetically frightening because you don't have a template, you don't have a map in terms of what that, like when you move out of your safe space, you don't know what's effectively going to energetically happen, right? Fourth, but again, even in these moments right now, this is even energy in separation that's starting to come into connection with energy that's almost affirming and saying, I'm doing the same. I'm doing the exact same. I know exactly how you feel because I'm doing it too. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Knight of Swords in its reversal. It is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy. We were talking about this in the last daily collective read that we did. For masculine, this is the approach. This is potentially moving towards energetic counterpart right now. If you're not letting your ego guide you, if you're just trying to be your authentic version of self, it can feel a little energetically confusing because I told you, a lot of the energy right now that is like coming into divine union or working into coming into divine union, that ability of recognizing or identifying, it feels like you're putting your guard down. It feels like at a moment that you want to kind of put those guardrails up, that you want to put that armor up, you're trying to be your most authentic version of self. So even in that modality or even in that experience where you're leading forth from a place of authenticity, a lot of that for some of the masculine in separation, it can almost feel like that. I want to say this is some of that Cancer energy that's coming into play. It's almost like you're allowing that. I want to put it this way. It's almost like you're allowing that inner child to lead. But this is the authentic inner child, right? This isn't the inner child that's trying to play or pretend to be a grown-up. This is like the true sense of self that is almost coming out to play, if you will, as it relates to some kind of energetic connection with feminine. And one of the things that I described that we saw was happening over the last few days, if there was that modality of excitement, right? If there was that modality of eagerness, at the same time, if there was something that you recognized or identified from the feminine that was aspiring or perceived as trepidation, masculine energy, not jumping to conclusions as it relates to that, not taking something energetically personally. We see even now that a lot of the energy right now in separation, building into a connection with feminine, not assuming that trepidation indicates a lack of care, but almost utilizing that power or possibility of curiosity in those moments. This is what's reaffirming and reestablishing or building into some of these new energetic connections. Because this is almost the masculine energy. If asking those questions and getting those answers, what happens in the modality of asking a question instead of jumping to a conclusion? You potentially see something that you may not necessarily have seen before. So we see even now that a lot of masculine energy and separation may be building into new energetic connections with feminine energy that feels like it's more authentic. But because a lot of that isn't putting those guardrails up. While for feminine energy right now, This is why we see even now a little bit of that excitement, that energetic excitement that may be occurring as it relates to new energetic connections. But again, a bit more trepidation here, a bit more of that care, because this is the feminine energy that recognizes that seeing a masculine coming towards them in this way, there's really only one vector that really helps to articulate whether this is the masculine coming from a place of authenticity, or if this is just kind of, again, that false sense of self, if you will, that they may be seeing and experiencing, or that they're trying to prevent against. And that is through the vector of time. So a lot of trust that we see is being established right now for energy and separation, even if these are forging new energetic connections, because a lot of this is almost based on that sense or that space of allowing time and consistency to reaffirm what is happening in an energetic connection. And it is having a different impact on masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what do you feel most aligned to? Because specifically right now, for the masculine energy, this is that modality that is almost like I want to say like extending one's hand, if you will, towards feminine, saying, I recognize that I cannot create the time that is not there between us, but I would like the opportunity to try. And for feminine, this is that modality of effectively seeing a masculine that's approaching you or coming towards you in this way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that is, again, moving forward, having potentially a lot of changes that are occurring, even as it relates to something that is going very well. And even here, we see that like tenderness as it relates to how something is changing, because this isn't energy that is just moving towards a manifestation goal and bringing energy on like for a ride on the way. This is the energy that is trying, again, moving with the counterpart. And for the masculine, requires a little bit more of that energetic patience, requires a little bit more of that mindfulness. Again, not jumping to conclusions if you brought something forward to feminine that created a sense or space of excitement towards you, and like joy, like confetti, that created a little bit more of that, like that rigidness in the feminine. Because if you looked at our daily collective reads from the last reading, which you can find over on my YouTube, we saw that in that moment that the masculine moves forward with that commitment, it feels like that positive, it feels like that uplift. For feminine, it can create that center or that space of deep grounding. While for masculine, and these aren't energies that are, again, these aren't energies that are jumping to conclusions. If something that you're bringing forth towards a counterpart is bringing out a different reactivity space or bringing out a different quality or characteristic, this is the energy that is pursuing forward from a place of introspection, from a place of inquiry, because this is the energy that is supporting one another on the way, much like the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now. And we see, again, a lot of this work that is happening right now is having a little bit of a different impact on the energetic frequencies. For masculine, navigating situations and circumstances outside the self, wherein you feel like you're doing the best that you can and sometimes not seeing it kind of coming across the way that you may aspire or hope, that can sometimes create that tenderness in the masculine or doubting one's own self. What is feminine doing for masculine deep within the divine union? Reaffirming to masculine the intentionality that they bring forth towards all things. Helping the masculine energy recognize the difference between what is something that is being happening external outside the self versus something that can change within. And this is the feminine that's, again, almost lifting the masculine spirits in that modality, reaffirming the masculine's own commitment, particularly and essentially around those circumstances and scenarios wherein the masculine is doubting their own ability to drive something forward. While for feminine energy, this is actually a lot of the feminine energy deep within the divine union coming into a point of deep resiliency when they recognize and they identify or they see the masculine in this modality. Because seeing a masculine in that center of modality, it creates that sense of nurturing in the feminine. It creates that desire or that need to nurture. So we see even now that for masculine and feminine, that ability of navigating these circumstances or situations, for feminine, it almost feels like more of that aspect of trying to lend energetic care and support, more of that outward giving, as it were. For masculine right now, this may be creating more states or space of internalized introspection. Both of these energies navigating their own hurdles, but in a way where they're not trying to overwhelm the counterpart with their own circumstances or situations, but doing everything they can to help them identify and say, I see what you're doing. I can't take that burden off of you, but I want to do everything I can to help you see that I'm going to be supporting you every step of the way. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here, here's that element of time I was talking about. We've got here our 7 of Pentacles in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy. If these are energies that are going through any kind of personal frustrations or setbacks, potentially either with interpersonal connections outside of the divine union frequency itself, or just again those sense or space of trying to build into your own pathwork, working towards what feels like it is right for you, reaffirming. And I see even now, I see a lot of the energy within the divine union making adjustments to their own schedules, to their own practices, to their own habits, as it were, because this is the energy that is almost reaffirming to one another that it's okay to have a bad day. We all have bad days. The important thing is not to let those bad days compound upon themselves, not to let them become the articulation of the whole experience, because that ability of being able to lend perspective, looking at something on the grander whole, this is the energy that not only motivates one another if they're having those moments that feel like a difficult hurdle. This is the energy that says if it's difficult, keep going, because in the grand scheme of things, those small hurdles will feel like they're minor so long as you continue to move towards those bigger accomplishments or those bigger victories, right? And that's hard work, because that's the energy that's almost, again, reaffirming the intentionality of what it is that you're trying to grow at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're effectively seeing at this time is that sense of like, this is the energy that we saw coming into divine union that is expanding upon their manifestations. They're thinking about the future. They're thinking about that bigger picture. This is why because you'd say to me, why would an energy that things were going well, like, feel that inevitability of suddenly having to change something that's working well? Because this is no longer the energy that's thinking just about what's working well in the moment. This is energy that's starting to think on a grander scale. This is energy that's starting to think about that expansion point. This is the energy that's starting to think about that bigger picture in the grand scheme of things. So building into a connection with one another. This is the energy that's reaffirming even those moments of anxiety or fear in doing something that they haven't done before, by reaffirming their commitment to be along with one another in the whole way. So a lot of expansion points right now, a lot of deepening energetic connections that are occurring, coming into divine union. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is the energy that is feeling that change from within. This is the energy that, again, if these are spaces or places where energy is moving towards new energetic connections, not only from a state or space of recognizing what it is that they aspire in a counterpart, but also looking towards what they're changing within their own self. That commitment towards the manifestation goal, almost saying to oneself, this is what I'm trying to manifest, and this is what I'm going to change about myself along the way. This is the energy that is effectively, energetically recognizing that that commitment that they're putting towards moving towards a counterpart is not a commitment towards a counterpart. It's a commitment towards one's own self. It's a commitment towards what one is growing for oneself. So that affirmation, this is, again, the energy in separation that is working towards, again, abandoning the energetic outcome, surrendering the energetic outcome and saying, I'm not doing this to come into alignment with counterpart. I'm doing this for me. I'm coming into alignment for me, because that is the energy that says, is if I stay committed towards that and I can stay committed towards my manifestation goals, how else? There's no other possible outcome. That is either the pathwork that I do this for myself or I do it via the counterpart. So this is the energy that feels like they're moving towards that connection because they're being very energetically mindful of what they're growing along the way. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between our wild little trifecta here of our 10 of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Devil card in its reversal, in combination with our Lovers card in its upright, in combination with our Six of Cups. I love these cards together, my friends. I love this combination of cards together. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with High Priestess. Again, different qualities, characteristics that are being expressed right now for masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine and feminine energy in separation, this pathwork feels slightly different. Why? Because we're effectively seeing right now that for the masculine energy, this feels more like a pathwork of vulnerability, right? This feels more like that pathwork I told you of putting down one's armor, of allowing oneself to feel that sense or space and saying, what if I just trusted the process? What if I just allowed myself to be vulnerable? What if I just spoke about how I feel? What if I just spoke about my fears? What if I just spoke about my anxieties? What if I just allowed myself to have that ability to be my most vulnerable, authentic sense of self? Right? So that is again, that ability of, again, allowing that authentic inner child to speak, allowing that deeper inner voice to come through, allowing the masculine to effectively connect towards energetic connections on a deeper level. But that's something that happens from within, isn't generated from without. For feminine, this is the feminine saying, what if I just maintain that resiliency? What if I just moved in the modality of what my highest self aspires and desires to be? What if I allowed myself to imagine and inhabit who I desire to be? What if I allow that to be the template through which I perceive how I experience and conduct myself through others? So we see even now, these are the energetic connections that are coming into alignment, but they feel like they're going through very different processes, but they are the same process because these are the energies that are moving away from their unhealthy coping mechanisms in the process of building a new energetic connection. For masculine, it is putting down that pathwork of resistance, of putting down the ego and saying, what if I don't move towards what feels like the easy shield? What if I don't take that easy shield and hold it before the feminine? For feminine, this is the feminine saying, what if I became stronger at a moment that I feel like I should become softer? What if I became more myself in a moment that I feel like I should become more adaptable? And what is happening for these energies right now? They are finding the energetic counterpart by becoming the most authentic version of themselves in the process. That is the energy that is being very mindful, not just, and they're not doing this. This is not the energy that does that because it's easy. This is the energy that challenges themselves to do that because they're looking and they're thinking about the type of energetic connection that they're aspiring to create with a counterpart. And that is one that almost requires us to challenge ourselves on the way. But that sense of challenge is not one that we feel like we become something other than we are. It's the challenge of becoming more our truer self in order to find that point of perfect alignment. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now. A lot of this connection point that we're seeing has to do with the reason of the energy feeling like they found that ideal energetic counterpart, right? And even now, we see that if this is energy that is working towards potentially deepening an energetic connection, maybe even changing what you may have first aspired or recognized or thought that you were going to build with an energetic connection, this is an energy that's doing so because they're becoming more adaptable to a counterpart, like changing and doing whatever is possible in order to facilitate a connection with a counterpart. This is the energy that's doing so and saying the change is occurring because I'm becoming more my authentic self. What does it look like when these energies come into connection and become more their authentic self? Masculine feels like they find a safe space in the feminine. Masculine finds a place in the feminine and says, I feel I can finally be my authentic sense of self. This is the only place I don't feel like I have to push against. This is the only place I don't feel like I have to put that false shield up. This is the feminine saying, when I'm with connection with masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, I feel I can be my absolute authentic sense of self. I can show the side that I don't show others. I can come into that vibration that feels like it's in the higher alignment with one, because these are the energies that recognize that alignment becomes one where the more you see, the more you like. It doesn't require you to be energetically perfect. It just allows you the space to be your most authentic, true version of self. Continuing for masculine and feminine, deep within the divine union frequency, this is the energy that is giving one another that support and saying, I truly see you. I know who you truly are because you have shown me who you truly are. The reason we've built forth in this connection is because even when you can't see yourself, I can see you. But this isn't energy that's saying, I know who you are, oppositional to what someone perceives and sees in themselves. This is the energy that says to one another, I have seen your truest sense of self because you've given me the act of being, allowing for that vulnerability. For masculine and feminine, different things. For feminine saying, I have seen that tender inner child within you. I have seen you've put your armor down towards me. I see what your intentions are. I understand what it is you're trying to grow, right? I'm here to support you in that. For masculine, this is masculine saying to the feminine, I see that highest aspirational woman of who you are becoming. I see what you strive to be. I see how you try to move into that space. So we see that both of these energies supporting one another by giving that sense of clear mirror, of clarity, even in moments that we feel like we cannot see it within our own selves. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Cups in combination with our Chariot in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Love these cards tonight. We've got our Two of Cups. Reaffirmation on what we just articulated. This is the energy that, again, come what may, this is the energy that even as they're experiencing those hurdles, even as they're experiencing those setbacks, even as they're experiencing those personal frustrations, even as they're like, that clumsy energy, if you will, in feeling that like, oof, like, ooh, like, ooh, like getting like too hard on each other, right? Like getting too hard on the self, as it were, getting too hard on the self. This is the energy that gets hard on the self, but never gets too hard on each other, right? Because this is the energy that when one starts to feel like they're deviating or one starts to feel like they're moving into that point of frustration, this is the energy that almost goes, hey, like eyes on me. I see you. I see what you're trying to do. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that unhealthy coping mechanism that tells you that you're less than you are. Don't listen to that past person that told you that you weren't who you were. Listen to me because I see you. And so this is the energy that says, look towards me for what that mirror is, because I know you. I know what is in your heart, because not because I've created it there, not because I'm seeing something that's not there. It's because you've shown it to me and because I've shown it to you. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is the energy that's like everything I've seen. This is the energy that is moving towards one another. And this is almost the energy going, look, you're not perfect. You're not perfect, but neither am I. This is not the energy that moves towards one another saying you're perfect. This is the energy that says, I accept everything I see in this energetic connection, because this is the energy that's moving into divine union. And even now, a deepening of those energetic commitments is saying, even the things that you feel are negatives, I feel are positives. That what you may consider are your hurdles, what you may consider like those aspects of the self that you feel are those, like, this is the energy that's like your red flag is a pink flag is a green flag, like your reddest flag is a mint flag. Like this is the energy that almost says to one another, like that ability or that aspiration, it doesn't require perfection. It requires an authenticity and a commitment towards the connection that we're creating between one another. And so what's happening in these energetic connections, they're almost looking towards the connection that they're building towards one another. It's almost like it's a third. It is that beautiful spirit that we create between one another, that thing that exists between us. And this is the energy that says that those hurdles are nothing as it relates to the energetic connection between them and the counterpart. So this is the energy that almost says to one another, it's not that everything is perfect at this moment. It's that even when things are not perfect, they're perfect if I'm with you. Continuing for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, I gotta say, a lot of new energetic connections that are potentially starting to take form right now. But a lot of this is because the energy in separation If one makes oneself committed to a pathwork of that, if one says to oneself, I'm focusing on the energetic commitments that feel like they are positive, that feel like they are restorative, that feel like they are expansive. And even in those moments that someone feels that pull towards something that doesn't feel positive, that feels painful, that feels like it causes pain, even in those moments, those energies are going through that process of introspection and saying, is there something that can be fixed, or is that something that needs to be healed from? Is that something that needs to be restored, or is that something that needs to be salvaged by moving forward into something that feels like it is healing? Because this is a lot of energy that's moving into a state or space of compassion, not becoming reactive, but almost just recognizing and identifying what feels like it is building a beautiful energetic bond with someone. And what occurs in the moment that we build a beautiful energetic bond with someone, that is how we heal anything that is unhealed. That is that expansion. That is that compassion point. Because the moment that we're able to feel that compassion around us, we're able to provide it to everything else that is in our periphery. So we see even now that sense of feeling that overwhelm, but not letting oneself move towards that space of what feels easy, but almost just allowing oneself to feel the space of state and say to oneself, if it's hard, I'm probably doing the right thing. That's the expression of love, because love is difficult, but not difficult in the way that it harms. It's difficult in the way that it heals. Continuing to get clarification between our Chariot card in its reversal with our Knight of Swords in its reversal. Clarification, one card please. We've got here our Six of Swords in its reversal. It doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it go away. It's still hard to carry, but it does make it easier, right? Because this is a lot of the energy right now in separation, even in the modality now of building towards new energetic connections. This is the energy that is almost amplifying and articulating to itself that even if these are situations and circumstances from the past wherein, something did not lead to like the outcome that one would aspire or desire, this isn't the energy, and even here, we see that this is almost like, again, this is the work that we see masculine and feminine are doing on the self, both in the sense of introspection, but also in the space of affirmation. Because we see that for masculine energy, this is the masculine energy going through that process of saying to themselves, I wasn't perfect from my past. But again, what are we saying towards the masculine energy that wasn't perfect from your past? You can only hold yourself from a point of imperfection if you saw and recognized that what you were doing was energetically wrong. If you saw and recognized that something you were doing was energetically wrong, that's something different. But if these are modalities where masculine is recognizing or feeling a sense of themselves that they haven't before, this is almost the energy of the masculine going through that pathwork of acceptance and reaffirming and saying, if there's either two different modalities for masculine right now, okay? And both of them, I got to stress, this is heavy for both masculine energies in separation, because these are either modalities wherein we see the masculine says, I recognize something now that I did not see then. And that's the modality where we see masculine says, I forgive myself. I heal my inner child. I cannot hold myself accountable for something that I did not understand, for something that I did not learn, for something that I did not see prior to that point. Because just like you would not fault a child for not knowing something, I cannot fault my own self for not recognizing something that the present self inhabits. Whereas for the masculine energy that is going through the process of holding more of that energetic regret, looking at something potentially with the sense, and this can be a little bit more difficult, saying, I knew something was wrong. I knew that wasn't the right direction to go. This is the masculine that says there's no correcting for the past, but there is always a correction for the past. Where is the correction for the past? The correction for past is always expressed in the present. There is always the ability to change in the present. So for both of these modalities right now, that ability to recognize that this is either a place of holding space for the past self, that work on the inner child, or that moment of reaffirming a commitment to changing one's own self, that is that beautiful moment that we see that a lot of the energy in separation is reaffirming their own commitment to their highest version of self via the moving towards their manifestation goals. While for feminine energy right now, same path work here. Either this is, again, feminine energy that's seeing something in the same modality, seeing something that they could not see before, holding space and forgiving themselves and saying, I did not see that, now I do. I forgive the inner child. I heal. I nurture now. I protect the inner child in that I see something that I could not see before, which gives me a resiliency to be able to stand firm before it, because now I have eyes to see it. Or for the other part of the feminine energy right now, if these are modalities where feminine is seeing aspects of their own self that they're looking at and saying, I knew that that wasn't correct. I recognize that that wasn't right. This is the energy that's saying there's no changing the past, but there is always a way to change the past. Where is the place to change the past? It is in the present. It is in the changes of the self. So we see that both of these energies right now, so much of this energy and separation coming into that pathwork of personal transformation that is allowing for new restored energetic connections. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, this is a lot of energy that's like, I want to say, a lot of this energy to a certain extent, the reason we see so much of this energy here that is feeling so much of this excitement, but also a deep amount of vulnerability and a lot of healing that's coming through right now. A lot of this energy almost feels like they're crossing the Rubicon to a certain extent. A lot of this energy right now is like recognizing that something here has tremendously changed. But that change, this isn't the change of something that doesn't feel right, calling it something else and saying, okay, I guess now it's better. This is the energy that says, I've never felt this before. I've never moved this far. This connection that I've created, this is something that is so valuable that this is the energy that recognizes that what happens in the moment that you feel something before, you haven't felt before, it recontextualizes everything that you may have experienced in the past. So we see even now that's having a little bit of a different impact for masculine and feminine, and it's overwhelming. Right? It can almost create a lot of emotionality for the past because that's that moment, better out than in. Sometimes you need to have that outpouring of expression in terms of recognizing and feeling something, even as you move deeper into an energetic connection, because a lot of this energy recognizes that moving towards another in this way is the energetic healing that they may have been expecting or anticipating to have in an energetic connection of the past, that they're suddenly realizing is happening in their future as they move towards energy with healed counterpart. That's overwhelming. For masculine, that's the forgiveness of the self to a certain extent. This is almost the masculine saying, I wasn't ready then, I'm ready now. For feminine, this is the feminine coming into, again, that grounding aspect. As I mentioned, that's why it brings out different qualities and characteristics, because this is the feminine feeling like they're rising into their full sense of self with masculine that sees them in that modality. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Seven of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups in its reversal. For masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is the balm that you give one another. Because if these are situations and circumstances where you feel like you're knocking your head against the wall, trying to help someone with something, or trying to navigate something, and nothing that you do feels like it works, well, it helps a lot to have that counterpart that says, I see that your intentions, I see what you're trying to do. I recognize, I see what that truly is. And so we see even now that ability to bring patience to circumstances or situations to a certain extent. It is as a result of being able to recognize and feel that sense of motivation in relationality to someone who recognizes and sees what it is that you're truly trying to do and is supporting you on that journey every step of the way. Because that's almost the energy that says, you are not alone. I am with you. You are not alone. I'm with you on that journey. You're not navigating that by yourself. I'm here, right? So we see even now that ability to feel seen and perceived to a certain extent. It's still hard, but it makes it a little bit energetic. It makes it more energetically easy because it's just the sense of knowing that you're not energetically alone. And that's the difference between feeling like, even if these are issues or circumstances that have to do with dealing or navigating with interpersonal issues outside of the divine union, this is the energy that almost gives each other catharsis on the way, because that's that sense of saying, give what is the beautiful element, that becomes a gift in that modality? Time. Everything can change with time, right? Everything can change. Just give it a little time. Like, that's that moment where you're just like, just give it, time. Time becomes the beneficial gift or grace in that moment, because this is the energy that if they're not experiencing or feeling the right environment around them in this moment, or feeling like they're going through that with another, this is either the energy of the counterpart that's saying to the counterpart, give it time. Or this is the energy that says time is on our side here. Like, just allow that intentionality. Let that consistency of the thing that is motivating you override the spaces and places that you're doubting yourself along the way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is why this is feeling like really overwhelming. And this is why I'm telling you right now, I don't want any of you to jump to conclusions right now. If you're moving into a deepening of an energetic connection and you're not seeing the qualities and characteristics that you would expect or ascribe to see in that modality in the counterpart, because I just told you, for the masculine energy moving towards feminine in this way, prioritizing an energetic connection, it feels like a celebratory moment, right? It feels like that moment of masculine feeling that affirmation point. And to see feminine become more rigid in that modality, it can sometimes lead to a misconception as to what you're seeing and experiencing. For feminine, it is the recontextualizing of everything that has come before that point that is occurring at the same moment that they're moving towards it. So you see even now, both of these energies that are feeling that energetic deepening of the connection, but it's having a different impact on how it is being received because of the nature of the energy. So sometimes, and that's why I say right now, don't you dare go jumping to assumptions if you see something in a counterpart that doesn't feel like it jives with how you yourself are feeling. Make sure that you're articulating and asking those questions of curiosity and introspection, as opposed to allowing that sense of the anxiety to override what can be articulated and received and emotionally navigated. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, a lot of the energy in separation feels that determination and relationality towards moving towards manifestation goals. That is the acceptance point that not all the same energy has the same manifestation goals as you yourself do. Masculine and feminine energy in this modality. The difference is it's requiring different qualities and characteristics in order for the energy in separation to suss out who truly has the same manifestation goals as the counterpart energy. For masculine, it requires a lot of authenticity. It requires a lot of vulnerability. It requires a lot of speaking towards how you feel and what it is you truly desire in the long term. That can feel very like an emotional quagmire. For feminine, like that can feel like you have to kind of drop your armor at a time that you feel like you're supposed to put it up. For feminine, that is coming into that point of like the resilience of the higher self, really focusing on one's own manifestation goals. And recognizing and identifying and not coming into a point of assumption, not assuming that just because you have a manifestation goal, someone else has the same, but really utilizing that same pathwork of introspection with someone that can articulate from a place of authenticity and honesty, who also recognizes that time is an important factor to recognize the difference between someone that says that they desire something, which is easy to do, versus energy that truly moves in a way that they are ready to amplify that is the direction they're headed. Again, words mean nothing without action. Continuing for get clarification on these cards right now between our High Priestess in combination with our Two of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. That's the card. Was I just talking about patience? Here she is. Here's our patience showing up. So this is that modality that we're effectively seeing that can sometimes feel a little bit frustrating or problematic. Because again, one of the hurdles when you're in the energy of separation is recognizing that even in the modality that you're moving towards your manifestation goals, this isn't necessarily, again, I want to point this out, and this is a difference that's happening right now for the energy in separation versus the energy that's in the divine union frequency. The energy in the divine union frequency is utilizing that feeling of having the intentionality of time being on their side. Masculine and feminine energy in separation, this can feel a little bit more like a frustration point right now if in separation, because even right now, if there are energies that are moving into potentially meeting new counterpart connections and feeling that sense of something special that may be happening there, this is the energy that almost says time will tell, right? This is the energy that says time will tell. The difference is for masculine, this is the energy that if masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, feels or sees that connection with feminine. This is masculine trying to move towards feminine in a way that feels like there's that sense of urgency, right? Like this is the masculine that almost does want to rush ahead, but is, again, what is the mindful masculine doing? Recognizing and identifying that that the things that are perennial, the things that last, don't need to be rushed. So even now, if that's a modality of, again, not jumping to an assumption, if you're building into a new energetic connection with the feminine seems like they're like pumping the brakes more here. This is the masculine that recognizes and identifies that doesn't necessarily mean that that's not a feminine that's not interested, so much as it may reflect or articulate upon an energy of a feminine that, again, coming into a place of asking the right questions, would articulate and identify the fact that we see here that is the feminine energy that is recognizing that it is very easy to say. It is very easy to say that you desire and aspire for an energetic connection, but what time will reflect, time will be the judge. This is almost the feminine energy, unfortunately, in separation, being like, time will be the judge as to whether that is a validation point or not. So we see even now, these are energies that even if there is a little bit of that sense of having to take their time, there's at least a point of recognition or understanding of why, right? Because this is the energy that is asking those questions, that is going through that pathwork of introspection, as opposed to jumping into conclusions of the internal self, not making it about the self, but when feeling a sense of being triggered, asking a question to identify what is effectively or energetically occurring. Masculine and feminine energy right now, and there's a lot of this nice harmonious energy right now in separation that's occurring, potentially new energetic connections that are forming right now. And a lot of it has to do with that sense of not being in a rush, taking some of that time, enjoying it, because that's almost, again, the energy that's starting to say there's something very beautiful here that's potentially starting to occur, right? Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. This is the energy that's changing something because they're suddenly adding time as a new vector to what it is that they're creating between one another. So this is why we see that this is more of that. I told you the time is getting easier depending on where you are in the frequency, because for the energy coming into divine union, this is energy that says we've got to add, like, we've got this great relationship that we're starting to build, but now we've got to add this new vector to it, which is the fact that this isn't going anywhere, that this is the new reality, that this is no longer energy that's not just building towards one another because they enjoy being with one another in the moment. This is the energy that's almost saying to one another, I would like this forever. Like, I would like this for a very long time. Like, so we see even now, like, a lot of that energy, even if there's some rockiness right now as it relates to some of the changes that adding that vector of time is creating. It's affirming, but it's like rocky, but it's also thinking about the bigger picture, and these energies are able to do that. And a lot of that planning that's coming into place, because a lot of these energies are not making changes because they're trying to change what happens, like what they feel between one another. It's so that they can activate on some of those long-term plans and goals that they're starting to imagine and set for themselves. Their manifestations are becoming the same. They're manifesting into that similar manifestation goal. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency. This is the energy that is utilizing a lot of path work of, like, I want to say, if these are situations and circumstances where the energy is feeling any immediate frustration, the clear mirror of the counterpart is assisting each other along the way by helping the energy see the bigger picture, by helping them think on a broader scale, by really allowing that like sense of thinking more on that larger time. So here you see the time is not necessarily the new vector. It's being utilized or implemented to lend that clarity of perspective in relationality to what may feel like a current frustration or setback versus thinking about the larger grand scheme of things. So we see even now a lot of that energy implementing that work. It's like that sigh of relief, because that is the energetic commitment that the energy has within the divine union frequency that is amplified or articulated with that sense of come what may, as long as we stay focused on what it is that we're trying to build together in terms of what it is we're trying to grow together. Everything will come in its time. Everything will come towards us when we need it to, because this is the energy that's almost articulating and saying, as long as I have this is the energy that says that that is not something that they're looking to change in. That is something that they're just trying to navigate through together. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Cups and its upright in combination with our Six of Swords and its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Love these cards tonight, guys. We've got here this beautiful Ace of Cups. So, and this is what's really lovely about this, is the energy right now deep within the divine union frequency. Where is the priority? Where is the priority of the energy, especially even in relationality to anything, even if these are interpersonal connections, even if these are like frustrations? This is the energy that's almost articulating and saying to one another, it's not my priority. It's not the priority, because what is the energy's priority right now deep within divine union? What feels like it is positive, what feels like it is uplifting, what feels like it is sustaining, what feels like it is maintaining. This is the energy that even in those moments that they navigate grief, they navigate it together. Because this is the energy that says that the grief that we bear is around us. You are my source of joy. You are my source of love. This is the energy that works to create that sense of abundance, that creates that sense of positivity. And even in these modalities right now where you may be feeling frustrations because you're trying to expand that for those around you, even if these are based upon miscommunications or that modality of frustration, this is the energy that feels like they're healing anything from the past in the sense of, again, wishing what is best, wishing to bring that same sense of joy in the expression of everything around them, which is where we find the energy that's coming into the divine union right now. This is why we see even now a lot of this energy that may be moving into that deepening of an energetic connection. It can sometimes feel a little topsy-turvy, because in the modality that you build into a sense of healing in an energetic connection, this is how the wounds of the past begin to heal, because this is the energy that feels like that they've come into that space of healing. But a lot of it is almost that sense of energetic surprise, if you will, in recognizing and identifying that that might not necessarily be the place that you had anticipated or expected to be healed from, right? Again, I keep telling you guys, closure doesn't come from going backwards. It comes from going forwards. So I see even now that a lot of this energy right now, this is the energy that is recontextualizing a lot of their previous journey or a lot of their experiences, because they feel like they're in a space or place where they can finally heal them, right? So again, that expansion point of being able to let go, it almost feels like that point of joy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is a lot of the energy, even if this is not energy that's even in connection, but this is the energy right now that either has new connections that are forming, that are building that spark of hope, or this is energy that is focusing on their manifestation goal of what feels like it is a strong, equal connection that is allowing, even in these moments that you're navigating any grief from the past, it allows for that sense of affirmation, because it's not the fact that you don't feel like there is a possibility of going to the past. We saw a lot of this energy potentially even face circumstances or situations where they felt like something very similar was coming towards them. This is the energy that like recognizes that they cannot go back. They cannot go back to that past because they're no longer even the same person that would have made those choices to begin with. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Three of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Eight of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. Listen, manifestation works in a lot of different ways, and manifestation works in terms of what you say no to as much as what you say yes to. So for a lot of the energy right now that is in separation, that point of recognition point, like this is the energy that's looking from the perception of saying to themselves, if I want to move towards my manifestation goal, this is the energy saying I have to be willing to say no to what is not my manifestation goal. Like this is simply the energy that's like coming into that point of recognizing and saying sometimes the way to heal from sometimes the best way to recognize if you're going in the right direction is what you effectively like say energetic no to. And for a lot of the energy right now, even if that feels like it's difficult, even if it feels like if it's hard, that's that point of saying if it's hard, that doesn't mean that you're not doing the right thing. Sometimes that means that you're doing exactly the right thing, because again, you're not facilitating what feels like it's easy, but it isn't feeling like it's healing. So we see even now, a lot of the energy right now, this could be a lot of energy, almost like going into a little bit of hermit mode right now. I have to even say it, like some of this energy in separation, if these are either energies that are building towards healthy connections or looking towards what doesn't feel like it's healthy or positive, this is the energy that's like, I want to say like there's a lot of energetic mindfulness right now that is potentially occurring around situations and circumstances to be able to recognize and facilitate what feels like it is productive, what feels like it's positive, versus what feels like it may be pulling you back into situations or circumstances that don't feel like they are healing. So we see even now like a lot of that affirmation. This is why some of this energy feels like it's difficult right now. Because a lot of this is like the yes, that's also like the no, right? It's like yes and no, like at the same time, right? While for masculine and feminine energy, and a lot of energy potentially encountering and discovering one another in this modality right now. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. A lot of this energy coming into divine union right now. I want to say a lot of this work that we're seeing, this is why even at a moment that may feel like it's amplifying, you may be seeing something that feels like energetically different between you and your counterpart energy. Because for masculine, this is that modality that we're potentially seeing that almost feels like that relief, right? It feels like that easement point. It almost feels like that sense of the masculine coming into themselves and saying, I'm ready to move forward in this way. Like I told you, there's almost like a maturation process happening right now with masculine that's in this modality. While for feminine, I told you, it can be more energetically triggering to come into this modality because it's a moment that you necessarily move towards this in such a way that sometimes it gives you clarity of perspective on what you experienced in the past that you feel like sheds a light on something in a way that you haven't before. So we see even now that a lot of this energy is immediately coming deeper into the heart of the divine union because they've affirmed that own readiness, not only to move towards a counterpart, but it's almost that acknowledgement of healing and releasing what doesn't energetically serve, because that's almost that modality of feeling like they're ready to let go, right? Like that's just that moment of saying, like, putting the past behind you, if you will. And even in that modality, it's like not that you don't carry a certain level or degree of sadness, but the joy that you're feeling in the present outweighs any of the grief or sadness that you feel for the past. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work, I have to say, I can see even now that there's some energy right now deep within the divine union frequency that may be kind of like shaking their head and saying like, I don't see eye to eye with this person anymore, or I don't know what's happening with this person, or I'm having this like static here, I'm getting all this like frustration, you know. But even in the modality of recognizing and experiencing this, this is the energy that's putting towards something a certain level or degree of compassion, right? Because what we're effectively seeing around some of these circumstances or situations is either that modality of, again, allowing for that sense or that space of saying that, well, potentially with time that'll be able to be fixed, right? Or that ability of, again, it's like this is the energy within the divine union. If they feel that energetic static, they just don't take it personally. Why don't they take it perfectly? Because they've got their focus is elsewhere. They have other priorities, if you will, right? A lot of the energy right now that's within the divine union is working so hard or fastidiously on where they're putting their time, effort, and energy, that when you're working so fastidiously on where you're putting your time, effort, and energy, it's like when something isn't moving in that directionality, you don't take it so personally, because you recognize that they may be in the same modality as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost the energy within the divine union frequency is just not taking things energetically personally. Like, it's just like, and when you're not taking, I got to stress this, when you're not taking things energetically personally and other people are, that's when it becomes confusing, because then you almost forget, you know, like, you're like, it's like, you know, like that's almost like that's a little bit of that. Like, if there's any kind of disconnect that's potentially happening here for energy within the divine union, it may have to do with something in relationality to that. Continuing to get clarification between our Temperance card in combination with the Ace of Cups. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Swords. So, you know, and even here for, you know, I got to stress this. I told you a lot of the energy deep within the divine union right now. It's tough love. It does kind of feel like that expansion or that expression point, you know, potentially and I need to describe this. Like, this is, you know, recognizing one's own limitations, recognizing one's own boundaries, but more importantly and more significantly, this is the energy within the divine union that's helping the energy in the divine union itself recognize their own, like, amplify and reaffirm their own boundaries, right? Especially and particularly if these are modalities wherein, like, working with your counterpart is one where you're trying to navigate situations and circumstances where, again, I told you, we started this reading with seeing like a lot of the energy being very hard on themselves, holding oneself almost too energetically accountable for frustrations. What is the energy, as I mentioned, doing deep within the divine union? It's kind of like that sense of saying, hey, that's not a you thing. That's something that's happening outside of yourself. Think about what your intentionality is. This is the energy that's acting as a clear mirror, as it were. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy that's within the divine union, not only being able to have that sense within the self, but also have that energy like almost reaffirmed by the counterpart, if you will. A lot of the energy in that modality is working through situations and circumstances wherein we see that just helping reaffirm that sense of like what feels like it is working towards you, like what feels like it is productive, what feels like it is positive, but also saying, hey, you have every right to hold a boundary there. You have every right to be energetically cautious there. This is the energy that, again, feels that sense of support, not only in the choices that they're making within the self, but almost in the ability to articulate those choices to the counterpart and have them either reaffirmed or, I want to say, gently, like, not, I want to say this isn't course correction, if you will, right? But almost giving a different energetic perspective. So we see even now, like, this is not the sense that the energy within the divine union always has to be in exactly the same space. I told you, they're counterpart energies for a reason. They see things in different ways. We even articulated that masculine and feminine are going through the same situations and circumstances right now in different ways. but it's the ability of seeing something with that different quality that is a benefit, because again, it feels like it's even more energetically protective. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. A lot of the work of the energy within the divine union, even if there's a lot of these changes that are occurring, and even if they feel like a little bit like stressful because you're not changing, you're feeling a good thing and you're trying to change a good thing into a different good thing because you feel like the inevitability of not being able to keep the good thing where it is, but that's a happy moment, even if it can feel a little like energetically frightening. This is the energy that's doing it, and they're showing that level or degree in the care, in the conscientiousness of how the other is experiencing it. This isn't energy that's trying to change something from one thing to another as a means to an end. This is energy that's feeling that amplification of doing something together and moving together. And that requires that constant, continual calibration. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. A lot of this work in separation has to do with, I gotta say, boundaries that are turning into standards. Boundaries that are turning into standards. A boundary is something that we have when something has been crossed beyond what we want it to do. A standard is a rule that we give ourselves going forward to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So for a lot of the energy, that recognition point of taking something that may have happened in the past that felt like it was a boundary crossed, either a boundary crossed within one's own self or boundary that was allowed to be crossed by another, articulating and recognizing it, and then reaffirming one's own commitment and understanding what one has to change within the self so that it doesn't occur again. That is a lot of energy that's moving into the state or space of taking something that may have felt like a triggered boundary, something that hurt, moving it into a standard, something that heals, that is now allowing them to articulate those standards to the new energetic counterparts going forward, to be able to recognize if there's a clarity in terms of what it is that you're seeking and where you're finding someone. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Cups in its upright and our Eight of Wands in its reversal. Can I have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Moon card. Yep, that makes sense. Masculine and feminine energy right now, I told you. So the energy right now in separation, this is like, we would not be in Cancer season, like moving into Leo, if we didn't have some of this Moon card coming up. You know, a little bit of this, I got to tell you right now, a little bit of this energy right now. I got to say that this is energy. I can already see energy in separation going, I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel good about doing it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I feel good about doing it. Right? Like, that's a lot of that energy that's kind of going forward in that way right now, because that's what occurs when we recognize a pattern or circumstance within ourselves that we're looking to change. We don't know what it feels like not to do that thing, right? So when we do that, when we proceed forward in that way, that's that feeling of the energy goes, I kind of don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like it's the right thing to do, right? Because that's that moment of, like, again, like that journey through like the uncertainty, but doing something in a way, like when you haven't done something before, there's always that feeling of like wandering or stumbling around in the dark, if you will. What's happening? What happens if you stumble around in the dark right long enough? You find a little bit of light. So we see even now that a lot of that energy, having gone through that journey, like stumbling away and almost saying, like, this is almost energy that goes, I don't know what I'm going towards, but I know what I'm not going in the direction of. I know I'm not going that way. Like, I know I'm going, I can orient myself in one direction, which is not that way. Like, a lot of the energy right now in separation is almost like moving forward in this way of going, I am finding the way that's right for me by recognizing what is not right for me. And that's okay. Like, that's okay to do. Because we see even now, like, that is the ability of recognizing and saying that you're learning as you go. That life does not require you to be perfect. Life just requires you to fail a little bit better each and every time. So we see even now, like, a lot of that energy in separation is potentially encountering other energy in that modality that's very much feeling the same way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is a lot of energy that's doing this together. This is a lot of energy being like, I've never done this before, or I've never felt like this before, or I've done like this is different than what I may have energetically experienced before. But this is the energy that is almost recognizing the difference. Because again, this is not energy that is doing, this is the oppositional. This is not energy that is doing something different in order to facilitate an energetic change between what they feel between them and a counterpart. This is the energy that says, I've never felt this way, so I'm doing something I've never done before. Recognize the difference, okay? Recognize the difference between someone saying something doesn't feel energetically good, I'm going to try to change it into something else to see if it feels energetically better, versus the energy that says, I've never energetically felt this way, I'm going to do something different. We're doing something I haven't done before because I've never felt this way before. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within the divine union frequency right now, if someone can't figure out the difference between these, it can be very energetically exhausting. So for a lot of the energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, trying to help others, this is a lot of the energy right now, either in the divine union frequency, trying to help others with that hurdle, to kind of help them recognize the difference between what feels like, again, this is why it can be so difficult to articulate. It can be so hard to articulate. It requires an honesty with self. It requires one to be honest with how one feels. So we see even now that a lot of the energy right now, either in the divine union, is assisting others who are going through those moments right now to try to articulate to them like what feels like it is positive, what feels like it is supportive versus what feels like it is not, potentially even from someone articulating it to them and giving their perspective, but also articulating and amplifying and saying the perspective of the outside self doesn't matter. It requires you to identify what feels right for you. Or this is energy right now that is helping to build a clear mirror towards one another in those spaces of doubt, in those spaces of uncertainty. And that's either, again, affirming what is working versus what's not working, and then helping someone recognize and identify if what's not working is something internal of the self that needs to be changed, or if that's something that's just an external problem that needs to be navigated. This is why I want to say even now, this is that clumsiness I told you, that stumbling around in the dark, but like looking for the light kind of energy that we're seeing here. Final card for today's spread between our Two of Swords in its upright in combination with our Moon card in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Pentacles in its upright. So I'm not surprised to see this. We're between two Capricorn moons. Things are becoming things are firming up is what I'm seeing. So masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. What we're effectively seeing to a large extent is a lot of this work. It's building into that. I need to stress this. It's helping the energy within the divine union both, I want to say, recognize and identify what exists outside the self. This is a lot of, I need to stress this. A lot of the energy right now deep within the divine union is doing a lot of this work on probing the internal self, but from a state or space because they feel the stability in order to do so. Right? Being able to feel that sense of really going inward and really introspecting. That's that gift that you're effectively able to navigate forward with when you feel like you've got that stability around you that allows you to do so. So for a lot of the energy right now, building that sense of terra firma for one another, that's a lot of the gift that the energy within the divine union is doing. I want to say not just for themselves, but for any of the energy that's effectively surrounding them to a certain extent, right? Because that ability of identifying and recognizing, and this is almost the energy that says that works through that sense of saying to oneself, if something isn't working, does it serve you? Is that something that feels like it's serving you, or does it feel like it's hindering you, right? Because we see even now that is almost that articulation or amplification point that energy is giving both outside towards those who like they're trying to like navigate interpersonal relationships with, while also reaffirming and establishing that for one another. So we see even now like that ability of almost saying like, I don't know much, but I know that this, like, I know like we have one another. Like that is that moment that again, it feels like that shelter, if you will, that the energy is creating not only for themselves, but in the sense of like the sense of stability in helping someone identify and recognize in a moment that they're not certain about how, like when they have those moments of self-doubt, to say to someone, you don't need to worry about doubting yourself because if you trust me, I know you. Like that is the energy that even when they go through those moments of doubt, that is the beauty of the counterpart that's able to almost ground and reaffirm them because you've given them the ability to act as a clear mirror to seeing who you truly are. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is energy that's building into deepening energetic commitments. There's just a lot of energy right now that is moving into a much deeper energetic commitment. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy doing that work, that is that moment that again, this is almost energy, even if they've done something like this before with someone, this is the energy going, not like this. This is almost energy that says and recognizes again, I keep seeing the difference between someone saying, I'm not trying to change something to change the energy between us. I'm stabilizing something because I'm adding stability, which could create change because what is happening between us is so precious. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, a lot of this work in being in separation right now is the amplification of focusing on the manifestation goals. And even now, this is either energy that's coming towards new energetic connections, finding one another in that modality. And this is almost the energy that is almost articulating, and this may even be, again, energy being like, you found me in a really weird time in my life. Like, this is almost the energy saying, I'm going through something that has been very difficult or hard, because this is the energy that's, again, putting in new practices that they're just learning. They're making these changes. They're turning those boundaries into energetic standards. And they're not necessarily sure what the outcome is, but even in that modality, they're encountering new energetic connections on the way that is doing same. So even here, we see that that is either the energy that feels like that sense of saying, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know it feels right. I know that this feels real. I know that this feels right for me. And that's that building towards the manifestation goal, even if one can't see it in this moment. Or this is the energy coming into new energetic connections with energy that they're finding along the way. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is Magician in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. As I mentioned, a lot of this work right now has to do, I need to stress this. I feel like there's a lot of energy right now in separation going, this does not feel like manifestation. Like this is not manifestation. Like not knowing what, like moving towards the only way to find something is to find out where it's not like recognizing and identifying what you desire also requires recognizing and identifying what you don't desire. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy in separation, that feeling of not knowing, right? That feeling of uncertainty, that feeling of doing something in a way you haven't before, it makes you feel clumsy, right? Because whenever you're learning how to do something new, you're not going to be perfect at it. But it's the ability, it's the capacity to allow oneself to feel that gracelessness that we are able to define and articulate an ability of becoming into grace. Like you stumble, like grace is stumbling. You can stumble into that to a certain extent. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy that's moving in that way, it's almost that sense of almost saying to oneself, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not doing what I used to do. That's a good start. Like, that's great. Like, you can build all kinds of stuff by just knowing what you're not going to do, right? Like, let that serve as one's own sense of recognizing what feels right for you in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we see that is happening right now has to do with, again, that same feeling, because this is energy that be feeling right now, if they're building into a connection like this, being like, this isn't what I expected it to be. Because a lot of this energy, as I said, I see a lot of energy right now coming into divine union going, I haven't felt this way before. Like, I haven't felt this way before. Because that's that moment or modality of, again, this is an energy that's trying to change and what they feel for someone by amplifier or moving into a deeper energetic commitment with them. This is energy that is reaffirming what they feel by doing something that they haven't done before in a way that they haven't done it. And that's why it feels so energetically new, which again can feel a little clumsy. While for masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency, you can't heal what doesn't want to be healed. You can only do what you can. You can only do what you can do. Like, that's the energy right now. That this is why there's so much of this energy deep within the divine union that just like let time kind of work towards, like, you know, the aspiration, because this is the energy, especially if this is trying to assist energy. This is happening in two different modalities. This is either trying to assist energy in such a way that someone can find their own path, right? And that's hard because you can't do something for them. You kind of have to require that ability of them being able to find it for themselves. That can be very hard to articulate and amplify to a certain extent. While at the same time, we also see that this is the energy that a lot of the energy within the divine union is going through some experiences right now where you're doubting yourself. You know, you're doubting your own ability. But I need to point out that, like, you know, I need to stress this. Worrying that you can't do something is usually the best sign that you can do it. Because it means that you really care. It means that you're not doing something carelessly. The energy that cares a lot is usually the energy that questions themselves on every moment of the journey. Because that's the energy that really puts a lot of care and compassion into wanting to do something right in the first place. So be a little gentle with yourself if you're feeling like that right now. That is our daily collective read for the day. I want to thank you guys so much for being here to experience it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website, so I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates. I hope you guys know I've got my next tarot class that is happening this Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you would like to continue with us on our tarot journey, the next class will be focused on the Empress card. If you'd like to become a part of our class program and attend that live class, head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Links in my bio. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access not only to our live monthly class, but it will also grant you access to all of the recordings and course materials for our previous classes. So you got ample time between now and Wednesday to catch up. You've also got access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we're learning. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me, wherein I will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey, and I'll give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize that path work to the best of advantage, both in the class and on your own personal journey. One of the things I tried to do with these classes was make them so that they would be useful to both the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So thank you to everyone who's already joining us in those classes. And I look forward to seeing you there if you're just joining us this Wednesday. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to be able to stay up to date on any new events, classes, giveaways I may be doing. You'll also have access to my weekly newsletter, which gives you my live schedule. Speaking of giveaways, I have pulled the winner for our recent giveaway in June. I'm going to be announcing it in our newsletter this week. If you would like to join our new giveaway, we are starting it now. It is, again, for a free tarot reading. All you need to do is head over to the link tree in my bio, fill out my 2-minute travel survey. Filling out that survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway, but if you want to increase your chances of winning, forward it to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I will be giving out a free reading not only to the winner, but to whoever referred them. So every time you refer someone, you increase your odds. I want to thank you guys so much if you've already taken it, and I wish you the best of luck winning this month. Finally, I have a couple new offerings. I'm very happy to be offering my clientele. On top of my private life path readings, I am now offering mentorship classes. These can be focused on whatever area of interest you are interested in pursuing around tarot or spirituality. I take a very limited amount of students for this reason. These can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly mentorship program. So that is 4 45-minute classes. You can find those in the link tree in my bio. And also, if you would like more consistent tarot support, I'm very happy to now be offering weekly tarot insight packages to my clientele. That is a discount on a full month's worth of reading, so a 30-minute reading each week at a discounted rate, so that you can stay up to date on your own personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here this evening and sharing with me in these messages, and we will do this again